Welcome back to the PTCB Prep Guide. Today, we're diving into pharmacy malpractice, and I promise by the end of this explainer, you'll understand it so clearly that it'll become one of the easiest points on the PTCB exam. You know, most students get confused about this topic, but once you see how simple it actually is, you'll never forget it again. So, here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the core legal concepts. This is the foundation for everything else. Then, we'll zoom in on your specific duties as a technician, talk about what to do when errors happen, what you might expect if a case ever goes to court, and finally, we'll wrap up with how you can proactively protect yourself. Let's dive right in.
All right, first things first, let's get down to the absolute basics. And trust me, if you really get these core ideas, everything else we cover today is going to click into place perfectly.
Let's start with the big one, negligence. In the simplest terms, it just means not being as careful as a reasonable person would be in the same situation. You know, think about it like this. A regular driver who glances at their phone and causes a little fender bender, that could be considered negligent. But as we're about to see, the bar is set way, way higher when you're a professional.
Now, what's really cool about this is how you can break down negligence into a simple three-part formula. For a lawsuit to even have a chance, a lawyer has to prove all three of these things. First, that you, the professional, had a duty to the patient. Second, that you somehow failed to meet that duty. You breached it. And third, that your failure directly caused some kind of harm or damages. Remember this three-step formula. It's perfect for the exam.
And this slide right here perfectly illustrates the key difference. See, malpractice is professional negligence. Because you have specialized training and knowledge, you're held to a much higher standard of care than just any person on the street. So the crucial takeaway is this: when a professional makes a mistake while doing their job, it's not just called negligence, it's called malpractice.
Okay, here's a term you absolutely have to know for the PTCB, respondeat superior. It's a Latin phrase that literally means let the master answer. In the pharmacy world, we usually call this vicarious liability, and what it means is that your employer, the pharmacy itself, is legally responsible for your actions while you're on the clock. So if a tech makes a dispensing error, the lawsuit isn't just aimed at that one person, it's aimed at the whole pharmacy. This is exactly why those standard operating procedures are so strict, because the pharmacy is ultimately on the hook for the whole team.
Okay, so we've got the legal framework down. Now let's bring it into the real world and see how these concepts apply directly to you, the pharmacy technician, in your day-to-day work. Think of these 3 points as your shield. Your number one duty is to always work within your legal scope of practice, which can change depending on what state you're in. You have to follow the pharmacy's standard operating procedures, we call them SOPs, to the letter. Any deviation is a direct path to breaching your duty. And critically, you have to know with 100% certainty which tasks are yours and which ones absolutely must be done by a pharmacist.
Now, get your highlighters out because this is a huge one for the exam. OBRA 90. That stands for the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1990. For the PTCB, you need to connect OBRA 90 with 3 key things. It mandated drug utilization reviews, or DURs. It set the standards for patient counseling, and it specifically applies to Medicaid patients. These are high-yield facts, so seriously, make a flashcard for this one.
All right, we've covered our duties. So now let's talk about the unfortunate reality of what happens when those duties are breached and mistakes, well, they happen.
So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, these are the classic textbook examples of pharmacy malpractice. We're talking about things like dispensing the wrong medication, say Lantus instead of Novolog, or giving out the wrong strength, or maybe failing to check a patient's profile and dispensing a drug they have a known, documented allergy to. Every single one of these is a serious breach of that professional standard of care we talked about.
So, if an error does happen, what do? This 3-step process is your guide, and it's something that PTCB absolutely expects you to know. Step 1, and this is the most important, patient safety first. Do whatever you can to correct the error immediately. Step 2, tell your supervising pharmacist right away. And Step 3, document everything by filling out an incident report.
And that last step brings us to this critical rule of thumb in both healthcare and law. If you don't write it down, legally, it never happened. That incident report becomes the official record. It has to be factual, objective, and complete. It's not about pointing fingers or placing blame. It's all about documenting the facts to protect the patient, yourself, and the pharmacy.
All right, let's just hit pause for a quick second. Quick check-in. Are you following so far? If this is making sense, do me a favor and hit that like button so I know to make more explainers on topics just like this. And if you're still with me, type PTCB ready in the comments below so I know you're locked in. Awesome. So we've connected the pieces, the duty, the breach, and the documentation. Now let's look at what happens when these things get examined under a legal microscope.
All right, let's imagine an incident report has been filed and things have escalated. We're now shifting gears and moving into the legal arena to see how fault is actually determined.
Now, this is really interesting. Sometimes the patient might actually share some of the blame, and the law has two totally different ways of handling this. On the left, you see contributory negligence. This is an older, much harsher rule. If the patient is found to be even 1% at fault, let's say they didn't mention an allergy they knew they had, they get zero compensation, nothing. Now, what's much more common today is comparative negligence. In that same scenario, if the patient is found to be, say, 20% at fault, their financial award is simply reduced by that 20%. It's a really important distinction to know for the exam.
Another key legal term for you is the statute of limitations. Really, all this is the deadline, the legal time limit that a patient has to file a lawsuit. It varies from state to state, but the crucial point is that the clock usually doesn't start ticking when the error was made, but when the patient discovered the error and the harm that it caused.
You know, we've talked a lot about errors and liability, and I know that can feel a bit stressful. So let's flip the script and end on a really empowering note. Let's talk about how you, as a professional, can be proactive and build your defenses from day one.
They always say the best defense is a great offense, right? Well, this right here is your playbook. Follow every procedure every time. Document everything clearly and accurately. Build professional, respectful relationships with your patients. Good communication can stop so many misunderstandings from ever escalating. And never stop learning. Keep your skills sharp.
And here are a few other protections to keep in your back pocket. Informed consent basically means the patient has to be properly told the risks and benefits of a treatment. Good Samaritan laws generally protect you from liability if you voluntarily help someone in an emergency outside of your job. And finally, malpractice insurance. Your employer likely covers you, but it's always a smart question to ask when you get a job offer.
Phew! Okay, that was a lot of information, I know. So let's boil it all down to the absolute must-know facts for your exam. Here is your high-yield recap.
Here they are, your 4 big takeaways. Number 1, malpractice is professional negligence. Number 2, the incident reporting process is correct, notify, document. 3 words. Number 3, OBRA 90 means DUR, counseling standards, and Medicaid. And number 4, our golden rule, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. Lock these 4 points in.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this question to think about. Because this stuff isn't just about passing a test, right? It's about protecting your patients and protecting your career. How does understanding all these risks actually empower you to be a more careful, more professional, and all-around better pharmacy technician right from your very first day on the job?
Thanks for watching today's PTCB Prep Guide. If this breakdown helped your studying, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone else who might need it. And definitely leave a comment telling me which topic you want to see next. Your support helps more students learn and pass the PTCB exam. I'll see you in the next one.